Hey friends and family, hey loved ones. How are you today? I'm really tired, but I'm really good and everything's going my way. It really is. Always. Love always. So I wanted to come on and do some review and share some fun things and see what wants to come through because I really don't know. There's so much really that could be said and could be shared and could be spoken about today. And yeah, just doing my best to come back home to me and be in that space of I don't know, and it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know where to go. Yeah, just be here and be in the flow. So, yeah, just enjoying all the new things, all of the new life, and all of the new characters and the players and the new stories, the new beginnings, the new joy, the new day, the new time, the new life. Yeah, that's all coming into being. So we are in that transition. Yeah, period. And it seems like we always are in some kind of a transition or another. It's that life, death, life, and that life, death, rebirth cycle. And so I have a lot that relates to that and goes with that, goes along with that nicely. And one of the fun things that's happening right now is the storyteller. The storyteller, the stories keep coming up. Here's a soul collage card that I made a few years ago, and I got out some cards out of my treasure chest box that I have. Yeah, I've collected so many of these soul collage cards over the years, and I just kind of had a nudge the other day to look through my little box I had decorated and with heart wrapping paper, and it's white and silver and yeah, all these different patterns of hearts and stuff on them, and then there's a picture of Mot, who's the goddess of truth. Yeah, and balance and beauty. And yeah, she's a lovely archetype to work with that I super love and appreciate. Just working with all the archetypes and the goddesses and the dark goddess and the witch and the alien. Yeah, and Medusa. All those parts of ourselves or all those aspects that have been denied, rejected, and distorted. Yeah, and hidden away because they were dangerous or too powerful, or they could carry us away in certain ways. And so it's funny in certain ways that we tried to lock her up or exile her, and she's always been here with us as that worthy opponent and that one that's asking for inclusivity and acceptance and allowance to be what she is, to be as she is, to be all she is. She's been misunderstood and demonized and cast out. So I've been doing a lot of work with the outsider, the exile, the monster, the outcast, the undesirable, the monster. Yeah. The monster that we've been told that we are. And so it's yeah, that brings up a lot from the old scars, Just having to make up for this original sin or this original sinner program, And so I know there's some things that go along with that. I've been writing the last few days around certain themes and around themes of persecution and all of that. But yeah, it's been an interesting time, and I've enjoyed looking at these stories and these myths and seeing so much into them and so much more deeply into me, my intimacy, and into our collective and individual psyches. So it's super, super, super fun to play with these stories, play with these characters, and have, these symbols and these archetypes and these messengers, these mirrors. Yeah, speak to me, speak through me for my healing and offering it, sharing with me and we to honor them and to honor we more fully. So I just wanted to share a couple of these cards. They're just kind of got the nudge. And so there is 2 coins on either side of this, looks like a book with, some figures, some kind of stories being told there, some kind of ancient history. And there's some kind of a flute here. It's an instrument and it's hollow. And it needs to be empty in order to receive and express, that song and that frequency. And so there is this, the currency, the coins on either side. One is an interesting, and it also kind of reminds me of Medusa in a way, one of the coins, the scowl on one of the faces. And so it is interesting. I kind of took it when I created this card as comedy and tragedy, and that there's a lot of gold. Yeah, there's a lot of gold in the stories and in the dual nature, in the opposites and the opponent. Yeah. So interesting one for me to receive and to put in my space today, and we'll see what wants to be communicated and received. And then there's another picture, another card it's a tiger. And look, he just looks, he's content with himself, and he's the king of the forest. He's relaxed. Look at his floppy tongue there. He just looks furry, and he looks friendly. He actually looks approachable and cuddly a little bit. And the tiger's all about power, and corresponds with and to Durga, the protector and the demon slayer. Yeah. So tiger medicine. And here Lion keeps coming up today and this week, and so Lion is here as well. This card I made a couple years ago, and I knew it had to do with anger and giving myself permission to express and to feel my anger, and it was a key to my own liberation and my own authenticity. So the key is a big symbol that's coming up this week in the last couple days. And that's fun. I have a new shirt on that my husband bought me, and it's got I'll just play with this for a second. So I guess we're back. Troubleshooting and not prepared. That's all right though. So I was just talking about my shirt that I have on. That's got the keyhole, and it's got a key and some kind of structure like a birdhouse, and it's got the roses, the buds, the petals, and the thorns. And so that is super awesome for synchronicity, and that's what I was feeling today. So, and the pinks. Yeah, it's all about the pinks. And so funny. I had a couple days ago where my word for the day was just funny. It was just wake up and play, fucking A, it's okay. So one of my, just silly words, it's a kind of a joke, an inside joke between me and my husband, because I got really sick a couple years ago, and I was kind of almost delirious and things. I had this respiratory thing where I got super, super sick. I had this terrible, terrible cough and fever that lasted me a long time. I couldn't eat for 2 weeks. I actually ended up turning into pneumonia and everything. And so it was a very interesting initiation in February of 2019. And during this time, it was kind of like the first couple weeks were a blur because I was so sick, and I was like pretty much bedridden for a couple days where I couldn't even get myself up to even get a glass of water, and I needed help. I was very, very sick. But yeah, during one of these days of high fever and confusion, I don't remember, I was asking him for something, and something came out like Hebe. And he's like, "Did you just call me a Hebe?" And so it's just like something that we joke about sometimes. It's just hilarious, fun, trickster energy. So, yeah, and it also has to do with a show he was watching called Casino. Robert De Niro's in it, and Sharon Stone and Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro plays a character, Sam Rothstein, in it, and Joe Pesci's character always calls him, "You fucking Hebe, you fucking Hebe." And so we just like, that was like one of our funny, just Joker kind of, yeah, playful ways to relate with each other, just calling each other Hebe. And so that was my word for the day, was Hebe, and it was just so funny and playful and magical. It was a magical day, and that's what I just knew, like, my word for the day. Today it's Hebe. And so it's just like playful, playing around with that kind of stuff. And then the other day, it was funny. It was all words that had to do with P. They were, yeah, everything like that came in that day. It was so powerful and so potent and so playful. Everything had to do with the letter P, and I might go into that later. But it's just like, just so funny, like where there seems to be like some kind of energetic theme for the day or something that wants to play, every day. And so just kind of going with that, waking up to play every day in every way. And so it's just fun making it my fun play and my fun story, because that's what it gets to be for me, and that's what I'll make it. That's what I get to make it. And so here's the next card. It's a penguins. Could be a mother or a father emperor penguin with a little chick there. Yeah, keeping him warm. And so the penguins, have been coming up, and so has dream time and lucid dreaming and all that kind of starshine. Yeah, here's this next card. It's a house with the northern lights, and there's the light within, and there's the stars, and there's certain alignments happening, and there's purple and green and yellow and pink. Yeah, colors. So that's interesting. And here we have a woman who's naked in the jungle. It's classic art, and there's the wild animals. There's the birds and the fruit trees and the flowers and the butterfly and the mirror reflection below her of this mountain and this water, the water and the land, that she is the reflection of all that is. It's all her, and she's opening her arms. Yeah. And it seems like there's these big cats that are coming out of the foliage, and she's not scared. She's reaching out to them, and they seem to be curious. So it's interesting. There's that card. Yeah, the wildness. Maybe it's like, well, where the wild things are. And this one is like really weird, and I didn't ever really understand like why I did this one or why I was drawn to this one, because I didn't necessarily like it, but it's just kind of strange, and it's like almost makes me think of playing a role so to a T that it is garish and it's ridiculous and overdone in certain ways, but yeah, maybe it just is what it is, and it is like all about the pink, and it's a pink flamingo, so it's interesting. Maybe she has some things to say to me. Yeah, so interesting. And then this is just a Robert Frost poem, I believe, that I just was drawn to, and I had no idea, but the penmanship reminded me a lot of how my dad's penmanship used to look, and seeing him write in his journal and stuff. It was a couple years ago, and I never really did anything with this, but yeah, it just I felt drawn to it the other day with this stack of cards. And so we'll see what messages, will come through and will can be received. And this one just reminds me about grief and how grief is a portal and how it is a fertile place if we can allow it. Yeah, our compost, if we can offer our compost up for that new life, we can allow ourselves to grieve and go through and be moved through, or let our feelings and our grief be moved through, to create space for something new and new life to be born through. And then here's another picture that was similar. It looks like the same art from the same magazine, and it's just all about the threads and about creating, and it almost reminds me of playing an instrument, or like the harp, a string instrument of some kind. And it's all about the hands. What can we create, and what can we reach for, and what is right here. And so it reminds me of like weaving a tapestry, or just playing and being in the moment. With what is calling, or what is presently in reach, accessible. And here's another one. It's a little garish as well. She's in costume, and she knows who she is. She's the swan. She knows her worth, her value. Boom. Yeah, it's interesting. Or is she just playing a role? Or is it both? And here's frog. Frog, frog, frog. Take some deep breaths and sing. Sing, sing, sing. Express yourself and be. Yeah. Clear the distortions and clear your own energy. Take a break. Hop to other lily pads. Bask in the sun. Enjoy some flies. And enjoy your own time. Enjoy your own life that you have. This one was one of the last soul collage cards that I made during a class with a big group of people, and that was the beginning of 2020, I believe. And I wasn't exactly sure why I chose these images, because but now in certain ways I'm beginning to see more. And so it's a little girl, and it looks like a mother or a maternal figure, and she's dressing up just like the older woman is, the older model. There's just like something's being modeled for her, and it's like dress up. Yeah, and she wants to be like her mom, or this other figure, this role model, which is interesting in a way. And there's the water, and there's the reflection, and there's the moon and the light. Yeah, and they are wearing white, and it is like the maiden and the mother and the moon. And so, yeah, there's some interesting pictures to contemplate. So the blue and the white and the gold and the pink and the golden haired. So interesting. And this is a picture of a ballerina and dancing. Obviously, like, looks Russian themed. The one above and the one below. So, yeah, the one below here is like she's dancing on Lenin's tomb or some kind of a thing, and I have no idea, like, what my psyche was trying to tell me there. Like, I didn't journal some of these cards. I just made them and I just put them in my box and for another time. And so now they're emerging again, and it's interesting. So I think this part is kind of interesting too, like where I cut it out in the shape of a dome. Yeah, and so there's some kind of message there. And the circle and the square actually keeps coming up for me in the last couple days, and squaring the circle keeps coming up. So that's interesting. Here's another card. It's a bunch of cheetah babies with their mom. And then there's like a gazelle or an antelope making a funny face in the corner here. You know, sort of like acknowledging like the predator and the prey relationship and the need for life to continue and coexist. And there is gold here, golden, yeah, colors, and the dark as well. So maybe it is about the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the terrible and the amazing. Yeah, the ugly and the beautiful, the great and the not so great, the great and the small. So, and there is this amazing card. This is one of the first cards I ever made. And it was all about the fire within and the cauldron and alchemy and fanning the flames. And then there's the cool water. The water in the center there. So it's all sorts of fiery energy and fire medicine. There's the lava, and there's the fire that wood burns, and there's the fire within. So it is all about fire medicine. Yeah, and the eternal flame. And the hands. Yeah, the hands that hold. This healing power. Wow. The hands that hold the flames and the hands that are holding the fan that fan the flames. So the seen and the unseen. Yeah, interesting. And here is the opposite, like the snow, deep snow and tracks in the snow and tracking certain things. You're looking at what's been and what will be. And then this symbol is a Tibetan symbol of Om Mani Padme Hum. And I created that one when I did a discipline about 5 years ago. I did a 40-day chant of Om Mani Padme Hum. And there's the crown and the pearls of wisdom and the cross, the 4 directions in the center, and all the jewels. Reminds me of Indra's net. The diamond consciousness and the pearls of wisdom. And this one reminded me all about the destruction that can be caused by that suppression of our energy, our creative energy, the kundalini, and its destructive qualities. Sometimes the old needs to be destroyed or needs to collapse so that the new can rise and be born. And so it's a huge disaster behind this coiled snake where it looks like it was an earthquake and this building just fell apart and you can see like the inside. Trauma and chaos and everything. And that was, I made that about 5 years ago as well. So it was super interesting themes of destruction and collapse. And this was made around the same time. It's like a mudslide, and a home is just falling down the mountain, and all of it's falling away. It's, the tower collapsing, everything dissolving and falling away, and so that new foundations can be made. And here is my Let Your Freak Flag Fly card. Just an image that I took out of a lip service Halloween catalog, and I just liked this image. And it's obvious she's in costume. And there are exotic zebras behind her, but compared to her, they're all the same, you know? And so she doesn't want to really like blend in with everyone else. She wants to be her own kind of exotic and her own kind of unique. Yeah. So let your own freak flag fly. There you go. And this picture, it was like a little disturbing to me in a way, and I had no idea like why, like I was drawn to it and why it came out the way that it did. And then after a couple weeks of looking at it, I discovered that it wasn't what I thought it was. And it was so funny what I thought it was and actually what it really is. And so it's kind of dark, but it's got like this figure that looks so weary and so like just in need of some kind of help. A kind of like an unpredictable, like, are they coming, to come rest, or are they coming for other nefarious reasons? And it is interesting because the figure I thought was holding like an axe was I thought it was a threatening, menacing figure at first, but actually it was just a tired, worn out soul who's so tired of cleaning up other people's messes and things, and is trying to come into a doorway to find the light. But like the doorway that they're coming into, it's like, it doesn't look like, I mean, it looks like a little bit brighter from the hallway they're coming from, but it's still like coming towards like the false light for relief and for rest and retreat and all that. So it really helped me to have compassion for that worn out part of myself that was so tired of everything, and just was, it took everything some days like to pull myself up out of bed and all that, because I was dying inside and leaking so much energy. And here is a park bench that's been carved like by so many people, and so many messages have been left, and it's like it looks like a bench on the beach. And and right in the center of it is this beautiful carving where someone had carved love. And then there's all these other initials, and where people got to stop and sit and make their memories and everything. And behind it is attractive houses and community. So, and I glued an ankh to the bench. So, love. This is just like love messages. And then this one is the cow and the bull. And it's Hathor. And the mother of plenty of milk and honey. And a bracelet or a band that's a circle. Yeah. It's regenerative and continual life. And she's always nourishing all that she loves, all of her children. So, some Egyptian art and symbols, archetypes. And this one This one was a little disturbing as well, but it holds a lot of gold, and it's perfect right now. It's all the denied, rejected, unclaimed, hidden aspects that I thought were not right. And so it's distorted. Yeah. So it's a lot of gold, though. It's gold in the shadow. So it almost reminds me of Strength card, where she knows that that beast within is her own strength to draw upon. And it does tell of hidden depths within, because there is that reflection and the surface of things. Things aren't always what they seem to be or what they appear to be. And here's one last card. And I called it the Traveler. And I just love the flower. And this spider is so happy. And he's got little pollen all over his legs. And he's just doing his thing. And he's just going to spread that pollen around to wherever he travels and to wherever he goes. And there's the lantern. And there is a jewel. And so illumination and the sweetness of life and enjoying like all of the things, all of life's good things. Never know what life is going to bring. It's an adventure and a mystery. So, yeah, be willing to explore. And so, yeah. These cards, I love how they all tell a story and can see different things in them at different times, because it's a mirror of my own energy and of what's going on inside. So it is fun to see those things, and fun to take the time, just to relax and unwind and receive what is available and what is here for me. Everything's alive and talking to you. Are you listening? So all sorts of stories being told all the time. And that's just the funniest thing about it. What kind of stories are we telling ourselves? And what kind of stories are we agreeing to? What kind of stories are we playing into? What kind of stories are we reinforcing? What kind of stories are we writing? Yeah. What are our favorite stories? Or what are the stories that we're maybe addicted to? Or maybe been typecasted into? What kind of stories can we break out of? What kind of stories can we rewrite? Because it's our story. And so I was talking about how I started my year out January 1st, 2021. I went to a little giveaway ceremony, and that was great and awesome to remember this last week, because we had just had Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is like an ongoing holiday for me all the time. Thanksgiving, I'm so thankful for all the things that are given and received and shared with me. I'm so grateful for all the life that I get to give, share, be, and receive, and experience. I'm so grateful for all this life that there is, for all this life that has been, for all this life that will be. And so thanking the past for everything that has got me to where I am now, and lovingly releasing, all of those things. So just wanted to do a little bit of review, but I also have some fun things to share, because there's been some fun allies and totems coming up. And so Goose has been coming up, and Goose is all about the fairy tales and imagination and stories. And Dolphin has been coming up too. which I might just share. Dolphin from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed. And Badger is still with me here, my Badger friend. Badger bitch, helping me with that aggression itch. So Dolphin Spirit, this and that are true. Dolphin Spirit, like her earthly manifestation, is a reminder of duality. As the dolphin is both mammal and sea creature, so too is Dolphin Spirit, both this and that. Two truths coexist, the story you tell and another as well. The duality of life is present when we are suffering, for there is a blessing too, in the helpers that appear. Within clouds are silver linings. When we later reflect on what happened, we can see that a situation was both this and that a choice led to both joy and sorrow. No relationship is either all good or all bad, and people have qualities of both light and shadow. Focus on the positive, for light exists alongside the darkness. Dolphin Spirit calls for you to come up from below and enjoy a weightless moment in the sun as you dive in and out of this and that, and then that, accepting and even enjoying the duality of life. Why not join Dolphin Spirit in acknowledging and affirming the blessings present in this moment? In all areas of your life, there are aspects of both this and that. Today, you can celebrate this fact and recognize the complexity and the beauty of the fabric of the universe. You are at a place right now where your past self is still present as you move forward, the new self you're becoming. I put on my glasses for a moment, see if that helps. So why not join Dolphin Spirit in acknowledging and affirming the blessings present in this moment? In all areas of your life, there are aspects of both this and that. Today you can celebrate this fact and recognize the complexity and the beauty of the fabric of the universe. You are at a place right now where your past self is still present as you move toward the new self you are becoming. Aspects of both selves are present, so even if you want to say goodbye to what was, you are required to find solace in this between time. Today is not a day to choose one over another either, but rather to accept things as they are without judgment or resistance. Even in matters of the heart, duality is present. Your next action will be obvious when you drop your bias and see things as a whole. Your next action will be obvious when you drop your bias and see things as a whole. Protection message. When you most want to be acknowledged as right and see other ways as wrong, Dolphin Spirit appears as a reminder that the story of your suffering and righteousness is a little more complicated than you are admitting right now. Do you want to see things in black and white and be rigid in your ideas of what's correct and what is not? Release your rigidity and embrace the fluidity of life as you recognize the grays that remind you there are two sides to every story, an upside to each downside, and a blessing in every challenge. What you think is wrong may end up being right for you, so let Dolphin Spirit soften your heart so that you make the best decision at this time, playing with the possibilities that present themselves. So, super awesome. Thank you, Dolphin Spirit. Thank you, love. And thank you, Dolphin Spirit. So, yeah, that was amazing, really, that relates to the story and, yeah, the opposites, duality. And so, I have been working on and working with my own vision and the way that I see me and we. Instead of worrying so much about how I'm being seen and about how others are seeing me or seeing what I may be doing or seeing my story, I've kind of, surrendered that and practicing and playing with that. Not to feel pressured about how I'm being seen or what kind of light I'm being seen in, but how I am seeing. And so many great things have been coming up around that, and I love it so much. There was a poem that I read in the Essential Rumi about Chinese art and Greek art, and that was such a beautiful poem that illustrated that so beautifully for me. And I just watched that video again today, just got a nudge to watch that, and I'll post the link in the description box there. Another fun thing that came up today was the Storyteller Card. I finally got around to reading that in my Sacred Path cards. And so I'll just go ahead and read the first page and the last page of that entry. So that starts at 222, page 222 in Sacred Path cards, and it is number 29, Storyteller Expansion. Sing to me, O ancient ones, of the history of our race, that I may see in my mind the love in every face, and every spirit that came before, the medicine that they made, the sacred tradition they passed to me, so the memory will not fade. O storyteller, be my bridge to those other times, so I may walk in beauty with the ancient rhythm and rhyme. The teaching. The storytellers of Native America are the guardians of our history and our sacred traditions. They ensure the future expansion our children will bring to the earth by keeping our ancient knowledge alive. Storytellers traveled among the bands and tribes of various nations, carrying news of events that affected the whole. The storyteller would recount the events of other camps at the communal fire after dinner. The storyteller would tell of brave deeds, coups that had been counted on an enemy, a medicine dream that had prophesied coming events, medicine stories that kept tradition alive, or the latest news of births and deaths. The Plains Indians sometimes called their storytellers twisted hares. These storytellers wore a small knotted and twisted bun that fell in the center of their forehead and marked them as historians and teachers of the tribe. A male twisted hair was not expected to go into battle, but rather to observe and recall the fight blow by blow. A female twisted hair was the historians of women's lore and medicine stories that assisted young women in maintaining pride in their tribal roles. The storytellers of all tribes and nations are the bridge to other times and ancient teachings. The children of future generations learn from the storytellers and apply lessons of the medicine stories to their own lives. Although the grandparents or parents would tell medicine stories to their children as they tucked them under the buffalo robes each night, it was not the same as when a storyteller of the nation arrived for a visit. Medicine stories are told and retold year after year to keep the teachings of the people alive. Every story has many meanings and relates to life in a multitude of ways. Each time a story is retold, the level of understanding grows and expands along with the maturity of the listener. The same events inside a story may be repeated many times in different ways to allow listeners to discern how the story applies to them. The Red people's way of thinking is very different from that of other races. We do not tell others what the true message is in our medicine stories, but rather allow people to use their individual gifts of intuition and observation to discern what the true meaning is for them. In this way, the teaching of the Red race insists that everyone be allowed to learn at their own speed in their own way and to apply or not apply the teachings to their lives. The storytellers were trained to allow freedom of thought among those who sought their wisdom. In this manner, children were taught that they had a perfectly good intellect and were equal members of the tribe. Every child who came to the storyteller was placed on an eye-to-eye level with the twisted hair as an equal. If children were acting silly or being disruptive, they were simply ignored as if they did not exist. This lack of acknowledgement and attention put a stop to the bad behavior. The storyteller could act as if that child was unheard and invisible for days. This was a much stronger form of discipline than spanking a child because the child lost face with the other children as well. Memory is a special part of our Native American tradition. Since our histories are passed down orally, the remembering is an art. Every herb, plant, or flower used in healing must be remembered for future generations. Every dance, ceremony, ritual, initiation, and teaching must be committed to memory. All tribal laws and prophecies must remain intact for future generations. The coups and losses have to be remembered for future strategies. It is obvious that one person could not remember all of these things or be an expert on every subject. This is why the various clans had historians who held the oral history of an area of expertise in their memory. These fragments of tribal teachings were passed down to the next generation, and each person held one fragment that was a part of the whole way of life. So interesting. These fragments of tribal teachings were passed down to the next generation, and each person held one fragment that was a part of the whole way of life. A tribe storyteller held a position in the Council of Elders. As a historian, the storyteller was called upon to recall past events with total accuracy so that the events could be used to pattern a present solution. The Twisted Hares taught how to live life in a balanced manner through the actions of the characters in the medicine stories. A medicine story that was told in a timely manner could end arguments, change the course of a life, bring courage in hard times, or encourage the youngsters to take on new responsibilities. Without directly criticizing the action of another, the storyteller could recall a medicine story that could point out a trail of folly or fear. The listeners would then be able to discern for themselves. All native wise ones teach through stories rather than by pointing the finger at others. In our teachings, we are always reminded that when we point our finger at someone else, there are 3 fingers pointing back at us. On the other hand, the storyteller can gently remind us of our wrong thinking and allow us to correct the erroneous behavior without shaming us in front of others. This teaching art is one way of allowing each person to decide what the story means for them. Raised Hand was a twisted hare who came every summer to share his knowledge with the children of the Ogalas who had gathered for the powwow before the sun dance. The horse had been used among the Sioux for 2 generations, and so Raised Hand came to the powwow on his paint called Red Arrow. The children ran to the edge of the camp when they saw Raised Hand approached with his noble companion. Raised Hand had 2 eagle feathers tied to his scalp lock and the twisted hair knot hanging in the middle of his forehead. "The Twisted Hare has arrived," screamed the children as they ran to greet him. Eyes filled with wonder, the children watched Raised Hand move into the camp. He was sitting proud and erect on Red Arrow, looking straight ahead with his jet black eyes glued to the center of camp. Raised Hand was the oldest twisted hare in the Sioux Nation. No one knew how many winters he carried on his back. Even the chief who came to greet him remembered Raised Hand as an elder when he was a little boy. Dismounting in the center of camp, Raised Hand was greeted with great respect and warm hawk hellos. "Hello, friend." The Council of Chiefs was called, and Raised Hand went to smoke the pipe with the leaders of the Ogala. After the pipe was smoked, food was brought and news was shared among those inside the medicine lodge. When evening came and the last light of Grandfather Sun's rays of love touched the swirling buffalo grass of the prairie, the feast began. Everyone always enjoyed a reason to celebrate. The return of Raised Hand to the band of Ogolas was very special. The expectations ran high, and all eyes were focused upon the storyteller as he began sharing the news of births and deaths, the coups that had been counted, and the decisions of the various councils in other bands over the last winter. When this oration was complete, Raised Hand told a medicine story. "Many winters ago," he began, "when the buffalo were plentiful and the only enemies of the Sioux were the crow, I was nursing at my mother's breast. I was small, but I watched the camp and I heard the drums of my ancestors speak to the people. I understood what the drums were saying and the stories they told. For such a small one, the stories were comforting when my mother was occupied tanning hides or making pemmican. So it was that 10 winters passed, and I had become a young boy with responsibilities. At that time, my name was Here's the Drums, because the medicine woman that assisted in my birth had noticed my fascination with the drum beat. Crooked Leg, my father, had been stampeded by a buffalo when saving the life of a careless youth on his first hunt. I was now partially responsible for hunting small game for my family. After returning one day with a squirrel and a rabbit, I brought them to my mother and was greeted by the storyteller, Yellowface. Yellowface was a twisted hare who had served our people since before my grandfather was a boy. Yellowface asked me what I had learned on my hunt and if I had heard the creature being speaking to me. I was startled because I had never told anyone that I followed my own heartbeat like the drum's music to the place where the animals told me who was ready to be my family's meal. Until grandfather's son died in the West, I sat and told Yellowface about the wondrous stories I had heard from my friends, the creature beings. I told him how I raised my hand and commanded my heart to drum Hakola to the sisters and brothers of the prairie. The hello friend that my heart drummed brought the creatures to me, and they gladly shared their medicine stories. So it came to pass that I was chosen to train as a twisted hair with the storyteller Yellowface. My name was changed to Raised Hand because I greeted all creatures with an open hand raised in friendship. The application. The Storyteller Card speaks of expansion on all levels. You are now growing and encompassing many new ideas if you have received this card. See which area of expansion needs your attention and feed your personal fire of creation. Create more and enjoy the expansion, knowing that you earned it. Note that the expansion will continue if you are willing to share how you achieved your success with others. Many lives are influenced by another's story. In the good fortune of your present situation, you may be instrumental in encouraging others. In all cases, expansion occurs when people are allowed to grow at their own rate with their own understanding. The wisdom of the storyteller is a part of the art of remembering. Note that you are now remembering your personal medicine and how to be your potential. And that ends on page 228. I didn't plan on reading all of it, but it just felt right, so I just went with that. So, how awesome was that? Because I hadn't even read all of it myself. I just kind of read the first page and the last page, and so that was awesome to receive. There, a storyteller. And stories have always meant so much to me, and I love that as well, that the story, let the story speak for itself. But it is, I love Clarissa Pinkola Estes and her stories and her, breakdown and kind of explanations of certain things and how she sees it. She's such a gifted storyteller. I love, all the stories that I've been working with this last year. They've been, such blessings for me to receive and integrate and weave into my own tapestry. And it's still a process that's ongoing. Always in process, in processing, just like the mill and the miller, grinding away. It's so great. And I actually did flip this open right before I got on here to record, and it was so fun, the message that I received. It was page 509, I believe. And so it does go along so well with all these other streams and synchronicities. So page 509 is all about the afterword. Afterward, the story as medicine. And so that began on 504. But where I started from today is 509. And so I'll begin at 508 here. So, gaining explicit permission to tell another's tale and the proper crediting of that tale, if permission to it is given, is absolutely essential, for it maintains the genealogical umbilicus that we are on one end, the life-giving placenta on the other. It is a sign of respect, and one might say of befitting manners and one properly raised in stories, to ask and receive permission. To not take work that has not been given freely, to respect the work of others, for their work and their lives together make the work they give out. A story is not just a story. In its most innate and proper sense, it is someone's life. It is the noumen of their life and their first-hand familiarity with the stories they carry that makes the story medicine. The godparents of the tale are those who gave a blessing along with the gifting of the story. Sometimes it takes a long, long time to tell the ancestry of a story before we can begin the story proper. This listing of the mother of the story and the grandmother of the story and so on is not a long, boring preamble, but spiced with small stories in and of itself. The longer story that follows is then like a second course, like that at a feast. In every authentic story and healing tradition that I know, the relating of a story begins with the bringing up, hauling up of psychic contents, both collective and personal. The process is a long exertion in time and energy, both intellectual and spiritual. It is in no way an idle practice. It costs much and it takes long. Though there are intercambiamos, cuentos, story trades, wherein two people have come to know each other well, exchange stories as a gift to one another. This occurs because they have developed, if they are not born to it, a kinship relationship, and this is as it should be. Although some use stories as entertainment alone, and although television in particular too often uses storylines that depict the necrosis of life, tales are, in one of their oldest senses, a healing art. Some are called to this healing art, and the best, by my lights, are those who have genuinely lain with the story and found all its matching parts inside themselves and at depth. They have had a long mentorship, a long spiritual discipleship, and a long time perfecting their disciplines. Persons such as these are immediately recognizable by their presence alone. In dealing with stories, we are handling archetypal energy, which we could metaphorically describe as being like electricity. This electrical power can animate and enlighten, but in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong amount, wrong teller, wrong story, unprepared teller, person who may know some of what to do, but does not know what not to do. Like any medicine, it will not have the desired effect, or else a deleterious one. Sometimes people who are story collectors do not realize what they are asking when they ask for a story of this dimension or attempt to use it without blessing. Archetype changes us. Archetype infuses a recognizable integrity, a recognizable endurance. If there is no change in the teller, there has been no fidelity. There has been no real contact with the archetype, no transmission, only rhetorical translation or self-interested aggrandizement. The handing down of a story is a large and far-reaching responsibility. To detail the parameters of such would fill several volumes were I to attempt to describe the healing processes in their completeness using story as a single component among many. But in the limited space here, let the most important part be conveyed, that we are charged to make certain that people are completely and fully wired for the stories they carry and tell. Among the best of the teller healers I know, and I have been blessed to know, many of their stories grow out of their lives as roots grow a tree. The stories have grown them into who they are. We can tell the difference. We know when someone has grown a story facetiously and when the story has genuinely grown them. It is the latter that underlies the integral traditions. Sometimes a stranger asks me for one of the stories I've mined, shaped, and carried over the years. As the keeper of these stories given to me on the basis of promises asked for and promises kept, I do not separate them from the other words and rites that surround them, especially those developed and nurtured in the roots of familia. This choice depends on no 5-point plan, but on a science of soul. Relationship and relatedness are everything. The master-apprentice model provides the kind of careful atmosphere in which I have been able to help my learners seek and develop the stories that will accept them, that will shine through them, not just lay on the surface of their being like dime store jewelry. There are ways, and there are ways. There are a few easy ways, but no easy ways that I know of that also have integrity. There are much more and far more torturous and difficult ways that have integrity and are worth it. Absolutely, one is enabled in the healing art and the medicine of story by the amount of self that one is willing to sacrifice and put into it. And I mean the word sacrifice in every nuance of the word. Sacrifice is not a suffering that one chooses oneself, nor is it a convenient suffering in which the terminus is controlled by the sacrificee. Sacrifice is not a great striving or even a substantial discomfort. It is in some wise entering a hell not of one's own making, and returning from it, fully chastened, fully focused, fully devoted, no more, no less. There is a saying in my family, the gatekeeper of stories will exact their due from you, That is, force you to live a certain kind of life, a daily discipline, bend you to many years of study, not idle study as ego finds it convenient, but one built upon exacting patterns and requirements. I cannot emphasize this enough. In the family traditions of dealing with story, as well as the Quintista traditions I learned and have used since I was a child, there is what I called la invitita, the guest, that is, the empty chair, this being present at every telling in one way or another. Sometimes during a tale, the soul of one or more of the listeners comes and sits there, for it has a need. Although I may have an entire evening of material I had carefully considered, I may change the progression to accommodate, to mend, or play with the sense of spirit that comes to the empty chair. The guest speaks for the needs of all. I tell people to do their own mining of stories from their own lives and insist upon it with those that I teach, especially the stories from their own heritages. For if, at the least, one turns always to the tales directly from the translators of Grimm's, for instance, then the tales of their personal heritage, as soon as their old ones die off, shall be lost to them forever. I am a strong supporter of those who bring back the stories of their heritages, preserving them, saving them from death by neglect. Of course, it is the old people who are the bones of the entire healing and spiritual structures everywhere on the face of the earth. Look to your people, your life. It is not by accident that this advice is the same among great healers and great writers as well. Look to the real that you yourself live. The kinds of tales found there can never come from books. They come from eyewitness accounts. The authentic mining of stories from one's own life and the lives of one's own people and the modern world as it relates to one's own life as well means that there will be discomfort and trials. You know you are on the right path if you have experienced these, the scraped knuckles, the sleeping on cold ground, not once but over and over again, the groping in the dark, the walking in circles in the night, the bone-chilling revelations, and the hair-raising adventures on the way. These are worth everything. These must be a little, and in many cases a good deal of blood spilled on every story, on every aspect of your own life, if it is to carry the Newman, if a person is to carry a true medicine. I hope you will go out and let stories, that is life, happen to you, and that you will work with these stories from your life, not someone else's life. Water them with your blood and tears and your laughter till they bloom, till you yourself burst into bloom. That is the work, the only work. Amen and aho. Yeah. Pages 508 to 511 from Afterward. Story as Medicine, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, PhD. So, yay, that was awesome. I actually went into that a little further than I had myself before. So it's really interesting as well, like all the boards and all of the art that I have around me right now, and the ones that popped out to play a couple days ago. I made these several years ago, about 4 years ago, and I love all the themes in them right now. So this one, it's a blue background, and it's all about the voice right now, and the voiceless, and honoring our voice, freeing our voices, right now. And so, this is something that I made because I wanted to start speaking to myself with loving kindness and praising myself and encouraging myself instead of depreciating and devaluing and being hard on myself. And so there are some amazing pictures here right now that this is really great for me to receive the story being told through these images, through this creativity. And so I like that. You're marvelous. Great idea. I trust you. You're important to me. Tell me about it. Good work. You're a good listener. That's exactly right. I understand. You're a good friend. Well done. You're so smart. Excellent. You did it. You make me smile. Fantastic. You worked hard. So I think I had taken this from a little pamphlet that my daughter had brought home from school when she was in elementary. And it was kind of explaining, like, like that the words that children hear, the words that we speak, the things that we speak to our children, be mindful of that, because that becomes their own inner voice and how they talk to themselves. And so it was, of course, like, I always want to speak to my children and my beloveds with the utmost love and care, because I never wanted for them to have that harsh, critical, abusive voice within them that I had within me, but it's just interesting, the modeling and the imprintings and the conditioning, the programming that does happen consciously and unconsciously. And so there are some other images here that I really love and appreciate. The goddess, and there's, it's like the goddess that was the stone, but she is alive in everything. She's everything. And then there's this flower that's blooming, and this, like, essence. This essence. The true essence of life. Yeah, and being present with the gift of life. So, and here, this is an old map, like from old history. And I had gotten it from, like, a National Geographic. And, it's an old map of, like, Italy and Greece, I believe. But some of the names is back from the time of the Etruscans and everything. Some of the names are totally different on here, and so it's like old history. And so I thought it was interesting that I had glued a goose, to this map here to help me navigate through these old stories. And so I may read a little bit about goose today. But down here. Here's a big, huge bonfire, actually. And I really didn't know, like, everything that this picture holds in it, because some of it's dark and I didn't notice, like, all the details, actually. And I actually was looking at it today and I saw things in it that I'd never seen before. So it was super interesting. So what it looks like, and I won't be able to see it very well because of the glare and everything. But what it looks like is there's this huge crowd, and there's, like, some kind of a festival or some kind of a show that people are looking at, and it looks like it's maybe in Europe or Germany or someplace like that. And there's these huge buildings behind this, and it's, like, really dark kind of image, so it's kind of a little difficult to see. But there's this the sign that's lit up in lights, and the rest of it's cut off, but what I can see is that it's like fog. So it's like this light, this fire that's illuminating, like, through this, like, fog of darkness and confusion and all of that. And what it looks like is a huge Ferris wheel burning, and, like, there's other, like, there's a carousel and other, like, kind of circus themed things that are burning, and this huge crowd watching, like, this huge bonfire. And above this bonfire, above, like, all the Ferris wheel and the like the circus art kind of theme stuff that's burning, almost reminds me of Burning Man, is this huge ginormous dragonfly. That's like a big huge either projection or a sculpture or some kind of work of art, life-size, gigantic macro art, this huge dragonfly. And dragonfly is all about the illusion, and it also is about lessons of power. So it's super, super awesome and interesting to see dragonfly come up there. And then this image here is a huge foot of an ostrich. Huge toes. Look at those toes. And it's like, the ostrich is a very awesome bird because it's a flightless bird. It's a bird that does have feathers, but she doesn't fly. And the really cool thing about the ostrich too is that it is a flightless bird, but it does still have the energetic qualities of flight and like that inner flight. And so it's equilibrium and it's balance and it's equanimity and the scales of balance, like just with Mott. She is associated with the ostrich and the vulture. And the ostrich feathers are equal on both sides. Yeah, whereas birds of flight, their feathers aren't usually like that. So it's super interesting. So it's like a good message to get grounded and to be supported by the earth so that we can take flight. And so it reminds me of the descent and the ascent. Yeah, so we need both in order to fly. And there was a poem by Rilke, actually, like during the Medusa's Sadhana, that actually spoke that same message. It was just really super interesting. And then we have whale here. So whale and dolphin is coming up. And I think it's really great that in this picture, it's like all about the light, the dark, the air, and the water. Yeah, and it's just reminds me, like, just this light streaming in and the bubbles and just like the pillars of light coming in, streaming in. It almost reminds me of like an organ, like the workings of an organ, like an instrument, like playing that instrument. Yeah, and that voice that is like that divine organ. So awesome. And then there's another one, but I just didn't plan on it, but I had moved another one of the boards over, and then I looked up and I saw this exactly when I needed to. And there's been so many synchronicities coming up around the rose lately. And so I just love it, that it's so great. This picture of an eclipse. So we're in the middle of eclipse season. We just had our lunar eclipse. We're going to have a solar eclipse December 3rd, 4th, which is really amazing. And there's so much to look into around that, around what's happening with the dances of the planets, as above, so below. And so all of these things that are coming in right now, so great. And the statue I had noticed in a lot of my collages, I had a thing for statues. And I realized too that it was much similar, very similar to my mannequin. Like, is that like the idealized version that's frozen in time, that's like, not real? Like, maybe she's perfect and she's beautiful and she's on a pedestal, but she can't move at all. And she's not real, you know? And so it was so fun to like kind of look at those things and what the messages, the messages that I was willing to receive and allow them, to speak to me, through me. And so there's the earth and life and death and rebirth and the nest and the squares, magic squares, and the labyrinth, and death and rebirth, the cross and the ankh and the sunrise and the wild. Waking up from a dream, waking up to the wild. Or knowing that we're safe. Coming into balance and harmony. And that red, that color of red, that corresponds to the South Shield and innocence and our own lifeblood, our own life force. And here's one last one. I have a few more, but these ones, these ones I'm just looking at and looking into the most right now. So I have like another map and all of these things, like all this history. and another book and currency and healing. Laying on of hands, the energy in the hands, the open heart and the open hands. And there's the birds, and there's the goose again, like kind of coming out of a box, like some kind of, mirror box that it's been in. Yeah. And Sekhmet looking on. Sekhmet, the goddess of protection. Hathor's counterpart. And this woman right here, she's like looking in a rear view mirror. And you can see, I don't know, there's like some kind of a mesh veil that she's wearing. It's like one of those veils where she's grieving, or, I don't know, maybe she's just mysterious. But been working with the femme fatale lately. She's been coming up lately, so that's interesting. She's searching for something. She's looking for something. She's seeing into something. And then there's two birds in the hand. And then there's some harvest going on and some excavation. And there's turtle at the bottom here. Very, very, very old species of turtle. So history and memory and all those things. Super, super interesting. What I thought was fun too, I was looking at amber, the stone amber, and I bought amber a couple months ago, a big bag of amber with like these big chunks. And so I was actually gonna share some of these this next month with some loved ones, some different people. And I really had no idea, like I hadn't read much on amber, and I know that it's from the trees though, and like, how awesome is that? I mean, if it's connected to the trees, it's already gold, you know. And so I picked this up a couple weeks ago, or a little while ago, and was looking at amber in here, just curious, and super fun to see this, because then later I kind of put like a few things together, and I'm wondering too if it's connected to the Vestal Virgins, because amber used to be used as a burnstone, and in I think they actually call it Bernstein, the burnstone. Yeah. So amber, like jet, becomes electrically charged when rubbed. Indeed, the word electric comes from the Latin word electrum, which means amber. Amber is made from the fossilized resin of trees, and although it shares its name with the color most usually associated with it, a deep tawny yellow, it also comes in blue, violet, or even black. Amber that is green is colored artificially. Before man knew where amber came from, there were many ingenious theories as to its origins. Lynx urine, said some. Others believed that it was chunks of the rays of the sun, set hard in the sea and then washed upon the shore. The association with the sun is probably the most powerful symbolic link for amber, and it does indeed look like a trapped sunbeam, especially when the occlusions and faults within the stone catch the light. Many of the uses of the stone reflect this association. Amber is said to cheer and revitalize. Amber was also believed to cure all manner of ailments, in particular hay fever, asthma, and other throat and respiratory infections. It could either be taken as a powder or worn as an amulet. As a cure for ear infections and even deafness, it was ground up into a fine dust, then mixed with honey and rose oil and poured into the ear. Because amber was once liquid, small insects can sometimes be found embedded in it, and this is the most valuable type of amber, as well as being the premise of the film Jurassic Park, where dinosaurs were bred from DNA taken from these insects. Like jet, amber burns easily, and it was for this reason that in Germany it was called Bernstein, meaning burnstone. The scent given off by burning amber was believed to drive away evil spirits. So that was just that little entry in amber, about amber, in Signs and Symbols source book. Okay. an A to Z compendium of over 1,000 different designs by Adele Nosdar. So super appreciate my symbols and source book. I love this book for just quick reference and curiosity and just the fun bibliomancy and all those things. So super, super fun and awesome, like to see all those synchronicities around electricity and memory and hearing. Yeah. And the rose and the sun. And so peacock is another totem, another ally that keeps coming up, and peacock is connected to the phoenix. And I just bought this book at this little boutique that I got to participate in from another artist who was there. And she had written a couple of books and wanted to just totally support her. And I just love the cover and the intuitive heart. Yeah. So the phoenix and the peacock keep coming up. And memory and electricity and electric charge and the fire and the water and the elements. So I had talked about this book a couple weeks ago, The Art of Memory, and I've been meaning to get around to it. It's just so funny. I don't even remember what it was now, but I have a bookmark here on page 221, and it says Giordano Bruno, The Secret of Shadows. Such a memory would be the memory of a divine man, of a magus with divine powers through his imagination harnessed to the workings of the cosmic powers. And such an attempt would rest on the hermetic assumption that mens is divine, related in its origin to the star governors of the world, able both to reflect and to control the universe. Magic assumes laws and forces running through the universe which the operator can use once he knows the way to capture them. As I have emphasized in my other book, the Renaissance conception of an animistic universe operated by magic prepared the way for this conception of a mechanical universe operated by mathematics. In this sense, Bruno's vision of an animistic universe of innumerable worlds through which run the same magico-mechanical laws is a prefiguration in magical terms of the 17th century vision. But Bruno's main interest was not in the outer world, but in the inner world. And in his memory systems we see the effort to operate the magico-mechanical laws not externally but within, by reproducing in the psyche the magical mechanisms. The translation of this magical conception into mathematical terms has only been achieved in our own day. Bruno's assumption that the astral forces which govern the outer world also operate within and can be reproduced or captured there to operate a magical mechanical memory seems to bring one curiously close to the mind machine which is able to do so much of the work of the human brain by mechanical means. Nevertheless, the approach from a mind machine angle does not really begin to explain Bruno's effort. From the hermetic universe in which he lived, the divine had not been banished. The astral forces were instruments of the divine. Beyond the operative stars there were yet higher divine forms. And the highest form was, for Bruno, the one, the divine unity. The memory system aims at unification on the star level as a preparation for reaching the higher unity. For Bruno, magic was not an end in itself, but a means of reaching the one behind appearances. This side of Bruno is not absent from shadows. On the contrary, the book starts on this level and readers begin at the beginning with the 30 intentions of the shadows and the 30 concepts of ideas, and who either do not reach or entirely fail to recognize the magical memory system based on 30, to which these preliminary 30s are the introduction, have been able to accept the book as some kind of Neoplatonic mysticism. My view, on the contrary, is that it is only after wrestling with the memory system that one should approach the preliminary mystical and philosophical 30s. I cannot pretend that I fully understand these, but at least one begins to perceive something of their drift. The first of the 30 intentions of the shadows begins with the one God, and with the quotation from the canticle, I sat down under the shadow of him whom I desired. One must sit under the shadow of the good and the true, to feel towards this through the interior senses, through the images in the human mind, is to sit under the shadow. There follow intentions on light and darkness, and on the shadows which, descending from the supersubstantial unity, proceed into an infinite multitude. They descend from the supersubstantial to its vestiges, images, and simulacra. Simulacra. Yep, that's what I'm going to leave it at. Yeah, lower things are connected with higher, and higher with lower. To the lyre of the universal Apollo, there is a continual rising and falling through the chain of elements. If the ancients knew a way by which memory from the multitude of memorized species might reach unity, they did not teach it. But Giordano Bruno will teach this. All is in all in nature. All is in all in nature. So in the intellect, all is in all. And memory can memorize all from all. Memory can memorize all from all. The chaos of Anaxagoras is a variety without order. We must put order into variety. By making the connections of the higher with the lower, you have one beautiful animal, the world. The concord between higher and lower things is the golden chain from earth to heaven. As descent can be made from heaven to earth, so ascent may be made through this order from earth to heaven. These connections are an aid to memory, as is shown in the following poem, where Aries acts on Taurus, and Taurus on Gemini, and Gemini on Cancer, and so on. There follows a poem on the signs of the zodiac. Later intentions are about some kind of mystical or magical optics, and on the sun and the shadows which it casts. So I'll just leave it there for now. There's something over here, though. The first, so it was, what is it? This was, the light contains the first life, intelligence, unity, all species, perfect truths, numbers, grades of things. Thus what in nature is different, contrary, diverse, is there the same, congruent, one. Try therefore with all your might to identify, coordinate, and unite the received species. Do not disturb your mind, nor confuse your memory. Of all the forms of the world, the preeminent are the celestial forms. Through them you will arrive from the confused plurality of things at the unity. Parts of the body are better understood together than when taken separately. Thus, when the parts of the universal species are not considered separately, but in relation to their underlying order, what is there that we may not memorize, understand, and do? One is the splendor of beauty in all. One is the brightness emitted from the multitude of species. The formation of things in the lower world is inferior to true form, a degradation and a vestige of it. Ascend then to where the species are pure and formed with true form. Everything that is after the one is necessarily multiplex and numerous. Thus, on the lowest grade of the scale of nature is infinite number, on the highest is infinite unity. As the ideas are the principal forms of things, according to which all is formed, so we should form in us the shadow of ideas. We form them in us, as in the revolution of wheels. How very interesting is that? I'm just going to let that percolate and let it just unfold and, unravel in its own time, in its own ways, in its own self, through its own self. Yeah. So anyways, just had a wild nudge to pick that up and include that. But it's so fun. So now, I feel like I did totally go in to that mother story and that grandmother story, and now the real story is ready to be told, which is so fun, so weird, in so many ways. And so I was just reviewing a couple of different things from this month, and I finally filled up this journal, and so it was a month. I started it on October 30th. And finished it today. So I get to start a new one today, and that was pretty fun. So some of the things that do relate. To start somewhere. Oh, so this was November 28th, Sunday. So this was the day that I was getting all those powerful P words. And it started when I woke up in the morning. And it was really funny, actually. It was a dream that had all sorts of things to do with being penetrated and probed. And not in the ways that you probably think you know. So it's so funny, yes. That's just how my day started out with, and it was just like, well, I guess the word for today is penetration and probe, because the word before, was on Saturday was Heb, and so it was just kind of fun to play with these things. So I'm thinking about being probed and penetrated, LOL, in many different ways, probing the shadow's underbelly and penetrating the illusion clearly and deeply. The Kokopelli and his enormous Vongstucker, the happiness, the passion and the tenderness of vitality and the rise of the feminine, the descent of the clouds, the journey to the underworld, and the death of the old guard and the superego. Medusa, the monster, the mirror of time. Letting go of the need or needing to get it all done or get it all right. And to get to the end. Or fix it, to manage it, to suppress or control it, this life force and creative energy. These thought forms and or entities, they are not mine to hold on to, struggle with, cling to, or carry. So I just get to be. I just get to allow my life force and my energy to move through me, fully and freely. I am sovereign, I am free, I am love, for I choose to be. All my love, for, through, all I be, for all of me. What do I get to choose today? Let go of who I am, who I think I am, and who I want to be for others, so I can just show up and justly be all I am for all of me and we. There are storyteller themes. Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. The giveaway ceremony and the return home, buffalo turkey and the horned goat, the bull in the china shop, the cow in the fields, the table of plenty, all love will reveal. I write my own story, I sing my own song, I dance to my rhythm, I stumble, I fall, I rise, I triumph, I remember again, all parts of this dance, destruction and creation, interconnection, regeneration, recirculation, endings, beginnings, be love again. Sharing love, joy, and magic, trust your renewed wings, soften, open, surrender, rejoice, and sing. Take flight, listening, communicating, trusting and allowing, surrendering, accepting power, freedom, truth, and responsibility, the power of our love, our words and intentions, the power of our voice and our focused attention, reception, accountability, willingness, humility, gentle strength, and clarity. The meek shall inherit the earth, the pure of heart shall inherit the earth. Be as a child, innocence, fire medicine, south shield. Winter solstice, mother's night, Christmas, Yule and Yuletide, winter energy, winter's gifts and holy days, inspiration, set and setting. Structuring, preparing and welcoming, invitations, intentions, trust and hospitality. True generosity, be a good guest. Revelry, celebration, salutations. Love, empowering, community, wholeness, fullness, wellness, and vitality. Brightness, brilliance, the light is returning. The light born again, returning. Inspiration and retreat, introspection and clarity. Review Yuletide and solstice correspondences and energies, themes, qualities. Individual, tribal, community. Original compassion, innocence, original innocence, mercy and empathy, power, potential and responsibility, astrology alignments, full moon, Venus retrograde, solar eclipse in Sagittarius, Chiron and Aries, Vesta activations and portals, purification, it is a new day, virgin time, virgin eyes, virgin light. Vice and virtue, fleur-de-lis, flower of life, tree of plenty, the rose and her thorns, the keys and the codes, the rose holds the secret that only she knows. Golden rose key codes, and golden rose. Blue, red, black, pink, yellow, violet, rose. Medusa, Nephthys, Hathor, Sekhmet, Isis, Shishat, Kali, Durga, Athena, Sophia, Magdalene's, Essenes, Avalon, Eden. The muses, the fates, the artist, the creator enjoying creates. The seer, the dreamer, the watcher, the visionary, leadership roles, a new growth unfolds. Miracles, magic, and blessings tenfold, hundredfold, thousandfold, all this gold, all we hold. The power of the P and fun P words today, starting with probe and penetration, tee-hee, and power, protection, purity, purification, potent, poetry, pleasure, party, playful, plentiful, plenty, pleasing, lol, people, patience, passions, play, plugs, pen, push and pull, pink, purple, peepers, pickled peppers, Peter poppers, pets and pests, proper, pretty, purse strings, pooter, the 16th letter of the English alphabet. Yeah, that's all I had for that silliness. And so it was just so funny, like the whole day, like there would be a word that would come in and then it would just like be playing with me for a little while and then it would pop up again and it was just all about the P. And so it was so fun for me. Just playing and just being silly. So November 29th, I've been thinking about the last 18 months in the journey to the underworld, the ascent and the descent of the goddess and her initiation into the soul to become once again whole. Inanna, queen of heaven, and Ereshkigal, queen of below, queen of the underworld. My dream, anger is medicine, and all the potent messages of this great awakening, all the archetypal themes, streams, healings, and repairings, synchronicities, reflections, projections, and stories, feelings, beliefs, perceptions, unauthentic ways of relating and operating, the default settings and learned behavioral conditioning, domination, control, and manipulation, speaking up, allowing, receiving, expressing, and choosing to go home and walk away, to step away, to separate, go my own way, sorting my own shit out and sorting through all the dirty laundry, worn out clothes and puts on new ones, surrendering old roles, people-pleasing, play-acting, rigid ways of operating unconsciously, and shadow caregiving, rescuing, playing at being the nice girl, the good enough one, the nice sweet one, the one above it all. The one that sacrifices her own needs because she's been taught to believe that her own worth, value, and energy is secondary to the larger groups or the beloved other's needs. She's been taught to minimize, dismiss, devalue, and undermine her own instincts, needs, and feelings, to make false peace, to create faux stability, to preserve the order or the secure order of playing small, right, and safe. And now there's new room to expand and breathe deeply, claiming my own sovereignty, choosing God's source, God's sovereign free behavior, and wholeness remedies. The peacock and the transmutation process of sacred alchemy, transforming the poisons into nectar and deriving benefit from the illnesses and dis-ease. The worthy opponents to help me realize thy beauty inside of me and we, to grow into my potential, developing new strengths, finding my own rhythms and my new strengths, developing new strengths and finding my own rhythms. So thank you to and for the adversary, all the creative challenges and opportunities. Thank you for the invitations to show up fully and be true to me and my soulful energy. Thank you for the lessons and the great work of alchemy. Thank you for this journey home, this coming home to me. This coming home to me, we, thee, and she. Homecoming through all, one being. Making the room, clearing the space, letting go, trusting, surrendering, receiving, remembering all this love. So be. Nice little visit with the family yesterday, getting excited for our sweet little grandchild to be born any day. And just so fun to see them the other day and go look at the nursery, go check out the nursery for the first time. And it was so fun and so amazing, really. We had no idea what colors of what they were really doing in a lot of ways. And it was so perfect because the quilt that my husband and I were making, and I was supervising for a lot of it, but I helped in my own ways. Yeah, but it was awesome. He finished actually the quilt the other day, so we were able to bring over some gifts and see the nursery for the first time, and it was perfect because it was unicorn themed, and we had no idea that they were doing unicorns, and that's the fabric that we picked out was unicorns and rainbows. So it was so awesome and fun to see that, to share the joy and the love and the excitement and anticipation for this new life, and these endings and new beginnings. So facing my own fears and confronting my own shadow, embracing current challenges, gifts, lessons, and opportunities. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. I'm seeing myself and the other ones of myself in whole new, fuller, true ways. Interesting sync winks coming up this week. I love the mysterious interplay of the cosmic web of being, this interconnectedness, and reading the energy multidimensionally. Shapes, forms, colors, numbers, archetypes, names, stories, and mythologies. Symbols, messages, messengers, and visionaries, seers, oracles, leaders, creators, artists, lovers, game changers. The 144, the threefold flame, the Vestal Virgins, the Magdalenes, the Essenes, the Cathars, the Gnostics, the Sisterhood of the Rose, the Veil, the Covering and Uncovering, the Golden Rose key codes. Hair is curtains, curtain bangs, the shield, the sword, the chalice, and the alchemical cauldron, the cornucopia, the chalice of plenty. The cosmic pulse of life, biotechnologies, and crystalline energies, emerging, awakening, emanating, radiating, recirculating, regenerating. Free love equals free energy. The square and the circle, masculine and feminine, in divine sacred reunion, igniting the flame of passion and tenderness, the true embodiment of the higher octave of chastity, innocence, purity, cleansing, holy waters and sacred fires, good medicine, the hearth, heart, home within, triple goddess, triad, trinity, mother, maiden, crone, the dual nature, balanced, harmonized together as one, living love, 0, 1, 2, 3, love is free, so be. Yule's been coming up. The wheel, the circle, the whole, the all, the wheel, the cosmos, the cell, the circle, the one that holds it all. Yuletide, mandala, Mother's Night, December 20th. Pre-winter solstice kickstarts the festivities of the micro eightfold wheel of the year. 12 days to honor each month, each part of the whole that make up the months in the year through each growing cycle. So it's a time of respite, rest and retreat, going inward, and deep inquiry. Also a joyful time of celebration and revelry, spending time with loved ones, friends and family, community, honoring our lifeblood and our unity, our ancestors, our roots, our crown, our progeny, all our parts we play, all our energy, all our worth, value, currency, gifts, resources, allies, relations, connections, qualities, blessings, all the codes and gifts we carry, all the threads in the great tapestry, the power of our word and focus, love envisioning, renewing vows, honoring commitment, celebrating, wishing well, prosperity, devotion, joy, appreciation, acknowledgement, hope and peace for mankind, for all life. All are needed, all are divine, all are living their own lives, reflecting back the love we need, the love we are, the love we be, the love we deny or the love we seek, the love we choose, the love we can be, the love that's needed for us to be full, whole, worthy, true, and complete, walking in beauty, in harmony with all things connected to me and we. Unity. December energies are lit legit. So many potent portals and catalysts for exponential growth, recreation, and change. New foundations, initiations, and epic new beginnings. A fresh start, a clean slate, freedom, power, and responsibility. The solar eclipse, the new moon coming soon. It's huge, and everything coming in, following through. Yeah, so I took some notes about that, the stuff that's going on with that, and maybe we'll talk about that next time. They tried to bury us. They did not know we were seeds. That's a Mexican proverb. Courage, temperance, compassion, care, empathy, awe, wonder, joy, and creativity. Spontaneity, openness, discernment, receptivity. Willingness, surrender, trust, faith, mercy, forgiveness, and generosity, remembering and awakening, enjoying and celebrating this love affair with life, love, creator, self, other, God and goddess, creation, experiencing, expanding, growing, becoming all I really am through this integration and harmonization, reunification, purification, transformation, transfiguration, alchemicalization, individuation, descent and ascent, shamanic death and rebirth, resurrection, regeneration, new activations and codes support foundations, seeing how much I expected of myself and how hard I was on myself. Man, I'm filling into the orphan, the outsider, the judge, the victim, the oppressed, the oppressor, the persecuted and the persecutor, the undesirable, the scapegoat, the villain, the asshole, the outcast, the Nazi, the boss, the martyr, the miser, the pleaser, the idealist, the caregiver, the peacemaker, the warrior, the virgin and the leader, the seer and the cheerleader, the visionary, the magician, the priestess, the lover, mother, maiden, crone, the artist, creator, healer, the butterfly and the caterpillar, the saint, angel, devil, sinner, hero, savior, and feeling so much compassion for the wounded, rejected parts of me and we that felt so abandoned, ashamed, lost, and afraid, cut out, separate, unloved, dishonored, and cast out, not allowed to be. Sending love to that outsider that was never good enough, the one that was excluded or unseen, misunderstood, unloved, rejected, cast aside, or pushed away, dismissed and denied, devalued, demonized, cast out, ignored, tossed aside, abandoned, ostracized, labeled as unworthy, and hated, loathed, despised, sending love to all those parts of me that were judged, scapegoated, condemned, blamed, carrying so much pain, guilt, and shame, forgiving me and we, and remembering, seeing how precious we all really are, love always. And so just looking at those things, like where those things were coming up, there's this part of me that was coming up to be seen and heard, that was crying and was so scared and terrified. And she, my wounded child, she had been so hurt and so torn apart. And just feeling so much love and compassion for that pain that she was carrying, for me. Feeling so much love for her and so much compassion for all those parts of myself that weren't allowed to be. So there were some days that I got super emotional and just let myself cry because that's what I needed to do, and I didn't have to attach to a story about it. And I just did that practice of feel, kiss, flow, just feeling into it, making room for it, breathing in, welcoming it to be there, and allowing the space for it to be acknowledged, felt, heard, seen, appreciated, and lovingly released. And yeah, it was a new relationship with myself, allowing all those parts of myself and allowing myself to be whole and allowing myself to be as I am in any given moment and knowing what I am. Yeah. And it's all good, and it's all right, and it's full, So, yeah, just having, those little things come in and realizing, too, that, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and forgiving myself for rejecting and not wanting to be with those parts of myself because it was too hard and it was too painful and it was too uncomfortable, So forgiving myself for avoiding those parts that were trying so hard to get my attention until I pretty much hit myself over the head with a brick and had no choice but to be with them. And so, yeah, just going over a lot of a lot of integration, a lot of review, and just knowing that it's fine the way it is right now, and there's nothing to fix and there's nothing to do. Yeah, and so remembering all that too. And surrendering old stories of there's not enough time and all of that. And seeing into those lies and those lines, those old lines. And it was great. There's one more thing that I did receive. Maybe sharing it next time, though, because it was some kind of amazing clarity that came in, and it was redemption, for everything, and gratitude for everything that's brought me to where I am now. And so there is nothing wrong, and there is nothing to forgive. Worn out clothes and puts on new ones, a new self-image and new roles, leadership support system, cleaning it up and renewing my vision, gathering with community to unify our vision, mission, wisdom, forgiveness, discernment, focus, love's appreciation, clear precision. Yeah. And so the fun thing about Goose, I just had to say, is that winter solstice is coming up, and so I'm preparing for, that fun time and those fun celebrations. I'll be hosting a fun circle, and it is like freaking huge changes and potential right now for growth. So the call of the quest and travels to legendary places. Goose, the cycle of power is autumn for snow goose, and winter solstice and full moons. So the goose wants to be included here in this, winter solstice. So, the mother goose rhymes and all of those things, the rhymes and the rhythms and all those things. So the goose is a bird with an ancient mythology and a mixture of symbolism. It was a sacred bird in Rome's temple of Juno. The snow goose is also associated with Boreas, the north wind in Greek mythology. The snow goose is also the totem for the winter solstice in the Native American medicine wheel. Most people have heard of the legendary Mother Goose stories, and rhymes were designed to quiet children. Myths, fairy tales, and other stories capture the imagination of children and adults alike. The goose is thus a totem, reflecting a stimulation of the childhood thrill and belief in stories and legendary places. The stories we loved most, or the stories we most loved in childhood, often reflect the life quest we have come to take upon us in this lifetime. That is why it resonated with us so strongly. Going back and rereading one or two of the stories you most loved will help you to see the patterns in your life. These stories either reflected an imprint for this life, or they may have even imprinted you with certain seed ideas. This is reflected in early life of a gosling. A baby goose is imprinted usually by the first moving thing that it sees. The goose can also be a totem to aid you in communication, especially through the use of stories. Its feather for a long time was the standard writing instrument. Individuals wishing to write, be it stories or anything, can facilitate the process by working with the goose as a totem. It will stimulate the imagination and help move you through creative blocks. Writing with a goose quill pen will help with this even more. Many arts and craft shops can help you in finding or making your own quill pens. Because its feathers are the most commonly used in making bedding, it is also a symbol of fertility and marital fidelity. To many people, sleeping on bedding made of goose feathers will help ensure both fertility and fidelity. So, the breastbones of a roasted goose also have superstitions in relationship to the weather. If the bones were brown, it would indicate a mild winter. If they were white or bluish, they would indicate a severe winter. Geese are related to ducks and swans, and they are more terrestrial than ducks, and they are vegetarians. To those to whom the goose comes as a totem, it may well reflect a need for more vegetables in the diet, and maybe even becoming vegetarian for a while. Which is interesting. Yes, because I've thought about that for a while. going back to the vegetarian diet, or to just more veggies. Geese mate for life, and they both share in the raising of the young. The fact that they mate for life often reflects again that the innate belief that there is one special person for us in the world. This has ties to many of the fairy tales that we are often imprinted with as well. There are 8 species of geese in North America, and this is very symbolic in that the number 8 is so similar to the symbol for infinity. It reflects its inability to move forward or backward. It reflects movement, and in the case of the goose, a call to the spiritual quest. This is further exemplified by its migration patterns and behaviors. Their leaving in the autumn stirs our imagination and makes us want to search out new worlds and dimensions. Their incessant honking seems to be calling us to follow them on the great spiritual quest. Their return is a harbinger of spring, second only to the robin. It speaks of the fulfilled promises that the great quests bring. The goose epitomizes the mystery of migration. They constantly shift formation, creating wind drafts and easier flights for those behind them in the formation. This reminds us that any one individual makes his or her quest, it becomes easier for others to do so as well. Yeah. And that's fun because that is something similar to creating our own trails, and like we're the pioneers and the ground crew of those trails, and it kind of makes it easier for those who come after us. So that's awesome. So this reminds us that as any one individual makes his or her quest, it becomes easier for others to do so as well. They never fly directly behind one another. Each goose's view is unobstructed, reminding us that we should not undertake any quest in life without having a full view of what it entails. In this way, the journey is facilitated for others. The V formation is very symbolic in itself. It reflects by its shape an opening to new possibilities. It is like an arrowhead pointing to the new directions and new possibilities, and with one end open, it also reflects an openness to new ideas. The V as a letter comes from the Hebrew vow, meaning nail. This formation usually indicates we are about to affix ourselves to a new path. It is a letter and symbol that reflects great fertility that should be acted upon if growth is desired. The Canada goose is the most abundant in North America. It has a powerful voice and a great strength in migration. The snow goose is predominantly white with black wingtips. Both species have a very keen vision. For anyone with a goose as a totem, greater vision, physical and spiritual, will occur. As mentioned, the male and female mate for life. Both share in the raising of the young, alternating staying with the nest. Goslings are very quiet, especially in the first part of life, and then they learn to break free. A goose as a totem can reflect that you are about to break free of old childhood restraints and begin to come into your own. Anytime the goose comes in as a totem, you can expect to have the imagination stirred toward new travels to distant places, whether in the body or in the mind. Thank you, Goose Medicine. Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. That was super awesome, and I super appreciate all these things right now. So much. All that's coming in right now. It's so fun. So fun. Wow, boy, howdy. And just like, oh my gosh, like the stuff that's coming up for the voice too right now. The voice. And I'm tripping over my words, and my dyslexia like seems like it's like on hyperdrive right now, and it's just like, okay, it's fine, you know? So it's just funny and silly, and it just gets to be what it is and what it gets to be. And I just get to be here and slow down a little bit and allow it to be what it is and what it gets to be. So I'm willing to change my mind, and I'm willing to trust life. I invite love to be the witness and enjoy this epic love affair with life, with God and Goddess. So that's what I've been focusing on right now, is just like all this love that's here right now, all this love that's within and all around me, and love is all around. So enjoying that. What a good day, an interesting day, a focused day, a flexible day, a challenging day, a beautiful day, a long day, a full day. So we actually did fit so much in. Maybe just showed up for what we are drawn to. We don't actually have to fit so much into a day. Maybe just show up for what we are drawn to and called to do, what we desire and what we aspire to, what we love and what we get to choose to create, embody, regenerate, serve, and participate, celebrate, appreciate, value, honor, and integrate. I'm willing to change my mind, and I'm willing to trust life. I'm going all in with Gaia. Mother, I am all in, all this love. I'm gonna marinate in. I am so willing, so I am. What a fun-filled day to play, make new friends, yeah, and create. Every little thing in every little way, all the preciousness, all the parts we get to play. I'm so grateful. Thank you, everything. Let go of who I am to others so that I can free myself to be. Show up and be yourself, love yourself, own yourself, know yourself, trust yourself, free yourself, be yourself. Who would you be if you didn't carry those old layers or old rags and robes of all those old projections, distortions, labels, judgments, identities and roles, regrets, resentments that seem to go on and keep the blame game going on this dial that we've been frozen on? Turn to stone against the shadow, the unknown monster, and the angel, the saint who was once a sinner, Vesta igniting the fires again, and the virgins reclaiming their places at the great hearth. Through this great heart of love we are restoring our hearts, our inner fire, our sunlight, source light, starlight, love light. Transparency and strategy, inner flame, inner connection, presence and self-care, inner genius, inspiration, generosity, reciprocity, letting the virgin life live, letting the moment be new, true, full, feel, kiss, flow, feel the love and let go. Love, joy, magic, care, innocence, compassion, generosity, and reciprocity. Yeah. The third eye of Medusa, the death stare, the death star, the demon complex, the poison and the remedy, medicine, how awesome, sync winks and affirmative confirmation, peacetime, the peacock, 13 moons, and the three fates at work. Yes. Interesting feels today: anticipation, trust, joy, ease, and contemplation, surrender, faith, mercy, acceptance, gratitude, and grace, excitement, celebration, grief, sorrow, and some slight agitation, but really so much more gentle and much softer today. The energy or feelings moving through me and we, it's getting easier to let go and just be free. It's easier to hold compassion and to choose forgiveness and empathy, to hold space for a wider perspective, remembering, letting go of past wrongs and where I feel like I've been wronged and wronged to be, where I felt like the world was wrong and others are wrong for choosing wrong things or making wrong choices for themselves and their well-being. We all get to learn, change, evolve, and grow, becoming who we are and being all we choose to be. All we get to play at being. I don't know, but God does and love does. So there's so much to write about, speak out, express, speak about, and share. So many huge developments and synchronicities. I don't know where to begin. Let go and begin again. So it's just continuous, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. And yeah, because, man, it's just like such an old pattern to second, third, fourth, fifth guess myself and overthink it all. And that goes into instinct injury. So healing the instinct injury and looking into all those things, forgiving myself and being willing to allow the mystery, all her ways of being. So, all right, hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying yourself, enjoying your life, enjoying this love affair, enjoying all this love and care, all this beauty everywhere. All right, love yourself and be love for yourself. Well, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.